Right now, misinformation spreads faster than facts, especially on the most sensitive global stories. NVP uses uncensored AI analysis to verify the most controversial topics and separate signal from propaganda in real time. Instead of guessing who to trust, you can see structured verification and analysis behind every major issue. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream, and thank you so much for tuning in to another show. Before we begin, I must say I really like the comments whenever we have, either a slight delay in the beginning or anything to do with that's either a coffee or what the type of food is, right? And it's always interesting to see the comments. So thank you so much, everyone, again, for tuning in to another live stream, all of the lovely people who have been waiting, and all of our viewers from all across the world. So I have a lot to talk to you about tonight, especially with the recent moves that are coming both from Iran on the ground and some of the statements that Donald Trump is making. Very important moves coming from France. Now Israel officially halted all defense cooperation with France. What does that mean, especially after the comments from Donald Trump? Donald Trump made several comments about European countries, primary allies of the United States, having to get their own oil. And he's also speaking about the war potentially ending. He said it might be ending soon, but without opening the Strait of Hormuz. Are they planning for a humiliating defeat and withdrawal, and how does that reflect the developments on the ground? We're going to go ahead and talk all about these things, alongside, of course, as usual, some important developments that have been happening in the past day. And let's begin, without further ado, with Iran's 88th wave. Iran has been dedicating its waves to multiple figures. I mean, it's either people or certain leaders who have been martyred, or this time it's Admiral Ali Reza Tangsiri and all of the martyrs of the Revolutionary Guards Corps Navy. In recent attacks, they dedicated them to the Holy Prophet Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, the victims of the Epstein regime, the Palestinian people, all sorts. And this wave was a particularly explosive wave from Iran. So the Public Relations Department of the Islamic Republic, of the IRGC in particular, announced that the its naval force, as part of the 88th wave of Operations True Promise, and under the slogan, O Fatima Zahra, carried out a fierce attack targeting American Zionist targets, confirming that it inflicted what it described as deadly blows. They also explained that a container ship belonging to the Zionist entity called Express Hafong was hit in the central waters of the Gulf as a result of ballistic missiles launched by the Revolutionary Guards Naval Force during a swift attack. The IRGC Public Relations added that in a second complex operation, and again, we're seeing an advancement in the tactics of the IRGC, especially with regards to intel. By the way, I think this is something that not many people speak about, the accurate intel that the IRGC has on every target that it hits. And listen to this. In this complex operation, they targeted the gathering point of US Marines on the UAE coast, where, according to the statement, of course, they were hiding in a camouflaged location outside military bases, and they were attacked using suicide drones that hit it accurately. Now, a couple of things to note here. Number one, the United States is increasingly using different means and methods to hide itself and get embedded into civilian infrastructure. You see, many people are claiming that, Iran targets civilian locations in the Gulf or what have you. Totally unsubstantiated claims. However, what the United States is doing now is proving that they're the ones putting the whole entire populations there at risk because they are conducting acts of terror against an independent nation from civilian societies, whether it's ports, whether it's hotels, any sort of location, because they know that they're not safe in their bases. So they were hit with this suicide drone attack against them. And again, one thing that stands out in this attack that's coming from Iran is the fact that they have very accurate intel about the location and the whereabouts of these forces. In a related development, it was also reported that another part of the operation resulted in the destruction of a Hawk anti-drone system belonging to the United States Fifth Fleet, which was stationed outside the base again, near Manama Airport in Bahrain, again using civilian infrastructure to hide, putting people at risk in essence. That's what the United States is doing. It was also noted that 2 advanced early warning radars at the Jabr al-Ahmad base belonging to US forces were targeted by drones. The IRGC's naval force also confirmed, according to the statement, that the Strait of Hormuz is now under complete and firm control by order of the supreme leader. Notice, complete and firm control by the order of the supreme leader. So we have Trump talking about deals, talking about whatever. From an Iranian perspective, they're actually saying that they are in a situation where they have full control of the drone. And they said and warned that any enemy movement will be under fire from missiles and drones, and stressing that the continuation of operations is on the way as well. So they're going to continue with these operations that they have. They concluded by announcing that the achievements of this operation are dedicated to the soul of the martyred commander, Admiral Ali Reza Tangsiri, and all the martyrs of the IRGC Navy, stressing that the continuation of his approach with all strength and steadfastness. Okay, so a couple of things to highlight here following this operation by the IRGC, their declaration, of course, and everything that they said. Firstly, we're noticing an escalation coming from the IRGC. I mean, undeniably an escalation. Then we're seeing an advancement in their intelligence gathering about the whereabouts of the American forces in the region. So advancement in attacks, more complex intel that they're getting. And thirdly, and this is very dangerous, we spoke about it before, of course, is the increasing use of US Army officials of civilian infrastructure in the areas that they have operations in. All of these things are very extremely dangerous. Why? Because they can lead to civilian casualties. If the United States is hiding in these locations and Iran is going to attack them, then, there might be casualties. What are they going to say that time? Are they going to say that, yeah, well, we weren't there? And of course, the United States is hiding as much as possible. But from an Iranian perspective, it's clear that their attacks are very accurate and they have high quality intel to do with their targets. But it wasn't only them who had these statements. The Iranian army also had statements today, and their statements related to 2 attacks that they conducted against the Zionist entity and aggressive US forces for targeting their country's infrastructure. And they said, in response to the crimes of the Zionist entity and the aggressive US forces in targeting the country's infrastructure, strategic and important centers in the field of communications, intelligence, and industry belonging to the companies Siemens, Telecom, and AT&T, which are owned by the army of child-killing entity, according to the statement, were targeted since dawn today at Ben Gurion and Haifa using suicide drones. Their statement said that Siemens Industrial Software Center in the central regions of the occupied territories near Ben Gurion Airport focuses on advanced technologies, including artificial intelligence and industrial automation, and is used to improve weapons production lines and design military systems. The AT&T Communications Center in Haifa is also an American research and development center working in the fields of advanced network technologies, cloud computing, and artificial intelligence for the benefit of the occupation army. The fighters of the Iranian army, with the faithful support of various branches of the armed forces, declare that they will continue to respond to any aggression without hesitation, relying on strength derived from faith and national capabilities, according to the statement, and until the threat of war is completely removed from Iran and the aggressors are punished. So the attacks that came today were both from Iran, the IRGC, and the Iranian army too. So the IRGC, of course, focuses primarily on the majority of the attacks at the end of the day. And the Iranian army also has regular attacks against Israel. As a matter of fact, in some of the previous operations following aggression from the United States and Israel, they were the ones who began the attacks against Israel following such aggressions coming against them. There were also scenes coming from the occupied territories. This was in Haifa, for example, following one of the Iranian attacks. Israel confirmed that multiple locations were targeted in recent days, but they are not revealing the total scale of everything, of course. However, from the limited number that has come out in the past couple of days, we saw substantial levels of destruction and strategic assets being targeted by Iran inside the occupied territories. This was also another video coming in from some of the landings in the areas that Iran attacked, most likely, again, following the Wave 88. Now, yesterday we spoke about Haifa's oil refineries being hit again by Iran. I showed you some of the images in a video that was posted today, some of the videos that came. Recently revealed footage showed an even increased level of impact because some of the videos were recorded in the initial time of the strike. But look at what happened, for example, just minutes after the Iranian attack. Have a look at this. So that was the aftermath of the attack that took place yesterday on the Haifa oil refinery hub. And today, there have been multiple statements coming in following these attacks in Haifa. One of them was from the municipality of Haifa. You know, when Iran targeted the petrochemical and oil refineries, I spoke to you about the cancer rates that have been larger, bigger, and higher than the national standard surrounding these petrochemical and oil refineries in Haifa. The municipality asked multiple times to remove them from the region, but the government always ignored the municipality. These attacks on either petrochemicals or oil or anything that would release toxic materials, ammonia, whatever it is, will increase the damage. Iran targeted multiple places that are hazardous with hazardous materials, whether it's in Haifa or in the occupied Bir al-Saba area, multiple areas in occupied Palestine. But today there has been a firm statement coming from the head of the municipality. He firstly said that Iran is precisely targeting sensitive sites, and according to the statement, the oil refineries must be relocated. So in one report, he warned of the danger of keeping the refineries in Haifa as they are repeatedly targeted, stressing the accuracy of the Iranian strikes. This is something very important. Why? Because he's saying that Iran targets specific locations inside the refineries and they are successful in hitting them. So it's not like they're attacking the entry or the exit or any random part. No, they know exactly what they're targeting. Anything where something is stored, whether it's the oil tanks or storage locations where ammonia and petrochemicals are being manufactured, for example, very sensitive things. And Israel's Channel 12 also quoted him saying that, and warning that the increasing dangers associated with the presence of the Bazan, which is the name of the facilities, oil refineries complex near residential areas. Exactly what we've been speaking about in terms of the danger on the civilian population. Yahav stressed, Yona Yahav is the mayor of the city of Haifa. He said that this proves the futility of keeping dangerous facilities of this size inside the city, recalling what the occupation government had promised before. Yahav explained that the complex was hit for the second time since the start of this operation, noting that the previous attack resulted in the death of 3. Now, we didn't hear that, by the way, from the media. There were no confirmations. I'm not sure if it's a slip coming or a deliberate slip coming from the mayor of Haifa. He said that there was no leakage of toxic materials. There was none recorded in the latest attack, despite the extent of the damage. There were, however, in the Bir Saba attack, instructions for the populations in the surrounding areas not to move without masks. So they told them you need to move with masks, otherwise, because there was hazardous materials being released all over the place. And the mayor of Haifa also pointed out that the Iranian strikes are characterized by precision. Listen to this, and that they target sensitive sites in Haifa and hit their targets. So not only are they aiming, they're hitting them very accurately too. He stressed that they need to move the complex to the south, considering that its continued presence in Haifa poses an unacceptable danger. He pointed out that the Iranians are working with great precision and know the locations of the sensitive facilities, and they direct their fire towards them and hit them. He added that the city is preparing for the possibility of further escalation, noting the need to manage underground emergency rooms. So they're preparing for a worst-case scenario. Now, in a statement that he made about a week ago, the mayor of occupied Haifa said that the Israeli government cannot sacrifice the residents of Haifa and the region. And these attacks are coming simultaneously, of course, with attacks coming from Hezbollah. And the attacks of both Iran and Hezbollah are characterized, of course, by precision primarily from Iran. But with Hezbollah also, they are not only targeting the sensitive facilities, they are targeting buildings associated with the group as well. So we're talking about a very dangerous situation here that could lead to catastrophic results. And that's why the mayor of the city is saying that the country is basically neglecting the government. They knew very well that Iran would be targeting these locations. It wasn't like a secret. And from their perspective, they're the ones suffering from it, because Israel isn't only, of course, opening the option for retaliation here. They're targeting similar locations in Iran. Israel is targeting very sensitive locations, nuclear locations too, inside of Iran that could lead to devastating results. Now, thankfully, so far, there hasn't been, any catastrophic situation in Iran, but from an Iranian perspective, they're not going to sit idly without response, and that's what they indeed are doing. Which leads us to the second thing that I wanted to talk to you about. And that is another statement coming from the United States about Iran. Yesterday or the day before, everything's happening so quickly lately, Donald Trump said that we are dealing with a new regime in Iran. And they're better to talk with, they're easier to talk to now. And they better make a deal, because if they don't make a deal, then they will hit them so they can pay the price of the previous regime for the past 47 years where they killed so many Americans. I'm not sure about the logic behind that, but hey. Anyway, today there was another gentleman who informed us, enlightened us all with his statements. It was none other than Pete Hegseth. Listen to what Pete Hegseth had to say.
This new regime, because regime change has occurred, should be wiser than the last. President Trump will make a deal he is willing, and the terms of the deal are known to them. If Iran is not willing, then the United States War Department will continue with even more intensity.
So hold on a second. What did the man just say? Let me hear him again.
This new regime. Because regime change has occurred.
Because regime change has occurred. We're seeing a new regime in Iran. Who's heading the new regime? The son of the previous head of the regime, right? Who Israel and the United States killed. He must be very friendly to the United States, right? Regime change. We can see clearly what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do here is prepare the public opinion for a humiliating withdrawal without accomplishing nothing. That's what they're preparing. They're preparing to be completely and utterly humiliated. That's what they're preparing. Saying that they destroyed things without accomplishing that destruction that they're claiming. This guy said that they destroyed the Iranian army. Okay, hold on a second. You destroyed the Iranian army. Iran has been defeated, but Iran manages to attack and continue attacking. You said they destroyed the navy, but they're shutting the Strait of Hormuz. They're getting heavy attacks, and we've never attacked any country like this before, and all of your bases are destroyed and all of your infrastructure is destroyed. You defeated them, but you want to withdraw? I mean, someone explain to me. And then they don't change the establishment, but they claim that they changed the establishment. I mean, really, wow. Is anyone that stupid? Are they like, is this a joke? Are there people who are buying any of these statements? Are they detached from reality, or are they that desperate? Or listen to this. Did Iran hit them so bad that they stopped thinking straight? I mean, I'll buy the final option. I'll take the final option. Iran has annihilated the living daylight out of them so badly that they stopped thinking straight. And now they have to come up with certain claims and statements that, we won, there's a regime change and what have you, and let's get out of here. I'm not seeing anything else. I mean, if someone is saying that the establishment in Iran has collapsed, please share your thoughts and views. I'd be interested to hear them. Now, it wasn't just him. There were a couple of statements coming from Trump too. What did Trump say? Trump said something very important. Also relates to this grand victory of the American empire. He said the following: ladies and gentlemen, he's willing to end Iran war even if the Strait of Hormuz stays shut. Oh, okay, all right. So you've been threatening Iran with unprecedented bombings until they open the strait. You threatened to target their nuclear, their energy infrastructure, their power plants, their desalination plants to open the Strait of Hormuz, open for business now. You said mutual ownership before. Me and the Ayatollah. Yeah, me and the Ayatollah will control the strait. You went and occupied Venezuela for oil. Yesterday or the day before, he said that we want oil, we want their oil, we want to control their oil. And now he's telling his aides, of course, there's a difference between what he tells his people and what he says publicly. Although what he says public is also enough to, well, reveal the truth about him. And now he's saying that, oh yeah, no problem, actually. We might end this without opening the Strait of Hormuz. All right, what else did he say? Let's listen to this report here, because it's based on an exclusive report that came from the Wall Street Journal, by the way. US President Trump told aides that he is prepared to wind down the US military campaign against Iran, even if the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz remains largely closed, of course, according to the Wall Street Journal. Citing the administration officials, the report said that Trump and his team concluded that an operation to reopen the strait immediately would extend the conflict beyond his preferred timeline of 4 to 6 weeks. Aha! So you're not planning on an infinite war here. You're not really planning on something very big because you can't. Or are they trying to hide something else here? Okay, according to the report, the administration plans to achieve core objectives, crippling Iran's navy and missile capabilities. Yeah, crippling, these words that they use, open for interpretation, while pressing Tehran diplomatically. So no longer talking with guns, to resume free trade through the waterway. You know what that means? That means that they haven't achieved their objectives by military means, and Iran forced them and will be forcing them to conclude this operation against Iran without achieving any of their objectives and without any even one guarantee coming from Iran. Now listen to this, because he's saying diplomacy is the way. If diplomacy fails, what will they do? Attack Iran with more force? No. Washington would rely on European and Gulf allies to take the lead. Oh, why? Because they're more powerful than you? More equipped than you? So the United States dragged, in essence, its people, its soldiers and countries in the region to this war that they couldn't defend them from this war. They don't have the same capacity, and none of their European allies are willing to take the lead. And I'm going to talk to you about this lead and what's happening now. There are also military options Trump could decide on, but they are not his immediate priority, they said. Okay. White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt told reporters on Monday that the US was working towards normal operations in the strait. Working towards, okay. Regional escalations have continued to rage, of course, since the attack. And they killed over 1,340 people in Iran. Most of them are, of course, civilians. What do we understand from this here? Because this says a lot. This is in line with the previous statements of Donald Trump, some of the previous statements of his that related to ending the war without accomplishing anything. For example, when he said that we don't need oil, we have enough oil, we're the biggest manufacturing country in the world, then it's up to these countries, they need the oil, so they need to deal with it. And all sorts of other statements that he made to try and cover up the fact that they are failing miserably in that location. As a matter of fact, his contradictions, really, they didn't stop there, because he said very recently that his preference would be to take the oil in Iran. Okay, so if his preference is to take the oil in Iran, why is he saying now he's willing to end the war even if the Strait of Hormuz remains shut? It's because they have no other option. Again, we go back to the Iran effect. This is called the Iran effect. The hammering of Iran eliminating the US bases in the region, and having such intense attacks that lead to Trump doing this. and saying that he's willing to end the war even if the strait is not open. Okay, he's going to rely on European allies and the Arab Gulf states. The Arab Gulf states, they don't have an option to defend themselves. What are you talking about even? They were relying on you, buying weapons from you. Now Zelensky stepping in, and they got a couple of systems they tried to get from Italy and what have you, but all of them were deployed in Ukraine anyway. The United States dismantled some of its THAAD systems in South Korea, decommissioned them to reconstruct them in the region, perhaps to save Israel primarily. Well, how are they going to defend themselves exactly? What kind of defense? The Arab countries, and I hope they're listening. I hope some Arabs are seeing this, by the way, as in at least the Arabs who are supporting, this notion that Iran is the aggressor and listening to this. They planted their bases in these countries to claim that they are protecting them, when in essence they were only made as terror hubs of aggression against other countries. And many of the countries and the Arabs who are supporting the notion that Iran is the aggressor here and condemning Iran conveniently ignore and hide the fact that they are used as terror hubs and they are based inside of these countries' locations, most likely without any say coming from these countries about the operations, the extent of operations, prior knowledge, consent, anything to do with that. They did all of that to protect the Arab countries, and now he's telling them defend themselves. Are they likely to defend themselves? Like they can now, unless they come up with a new strategy. Now, let's hope that some of them do wake up and actually do some logical moves here that would include Iran at the end of the day, because that's the same United States that has been pushing these Arab countries towards the hostile aggression against Iran that led to mainstream media campaigns against Iran, sectarian campaigns against Iran, racist campaigns against Iran. And now he's selling them out and telling them, kiss my whatever, right? Like he told bin Salman. That's how the United States approaches these countries. And again, are they going to wake up from this long sleep that they were in? Not sure, because who's going to protect? What are they going to do now? All right. And he started this war and he's not doing anything about it, by the way. He just wants to leave. Okay, I made a mess and I'm going to leave. All right. How is that related to the greater alliance? This alliance of the United States, and what are other countries going to do? What are the European countries going to do? Well, listen to how Trump is talking to them, and listen to, that's a recent video of his, and look at his recent post that he had on Truth Social.
How close are you getting that coalition? Well, we have a coalition formed, but they should have been up here a long time ago. And they're affected. The amazing thing is we don't need the Hormuz Strait. We don't need it. We don't need it at all. We have so much oil. Our country is not affected by this. We have twice the amount of oil as Saudi Arabia or Russia, and soon it'll be 3 times the amount. How close are you to getting that coalition? Well, we have a coalition formed, but they should have been up here a long time.
So, of course, the video was from several days back when he was saying that they don't need the oil, like I spoke to you. But look at the post that he had. All of those countries that can't get jet fuel because of the Strait of Hormuz, like the United Kingdom, which refused to get involved in the decapitation of Iran. By the way, it's a lie, because the United Kingdom allowed the United States to use its bases. The United Kingdom, in the form of the establishment, is completely and utterly complicit in these barbaric crimes against Iran. The United States was deploying bombers from the UK. They were using UK bases under, of course, the conveniently, put together term of defense, right? Keir Starmer said, oh, it's just defensive purposes, right? Like Israel was defending itself in Gaza, in essence. But what Trump is mad about is the fact that the United Kingdom didn't participate with its forces. But complicity is there from Britain. It's just that the country did not participate in a war, and he wants them to go to a war. What else did he say? They weren't involved. They refused to get involved in the decapitation. And he says, I have a suggestion for you. Number one, buy from the US. Excellent approach, right? We have plenty. And number two, build up some delayed courage. Go to the Strait and just take it. We failed. How about you go? Right? We failed. How about you go? You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The USA won't be there to help you anymore. Just like you weren't there for us. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done. Go get your own oil. Firstly, what a brilliant, non-toxic relationship does this Western alliance have, right? Secondly, what kind of a hideous argument is this? Countries, neo-colonial supremacist empires in essence, arguing about other nations' wealth. Go get your own oil. Go fight for it. Do you understand the tone, by the way, and how arrogant it is and how racist it is in many ways? Go get your own oil from these Arab and Persian countries, right? We failed, unfortunately. Iran defended themselves against us. How about you go? What are they going to do, Mr. President? The greatest firepower on earth, the biggest, the most powerful army in the world, What happened to the most powerful army in the world? The most powerful army in the world is being humiliated because more of its so-called allies are blocking military flights, unlike the United Kingdom. And that's why we said the UK is participating in this, albeit not in a way where the army is actually going to fight, but by allowing the US to use bases in the UK. Other countries are not, such as Spain. And it's not just Spain, it's also France. More and more countries are against this approach of the United States when it comes to Iran. And it's leading to very big problems. See, Trump has been having multiple statements against several leaders. But Trump recently criticized Macron very heavily because he wasn't allowing flights over the French territories to conduct attacks. As a matter of fact, we saw that in flight radar data, how some of the United States fighter jets and bombers were coming from the UK, going through the Gibraltar Strait, and then going through the Mediterranean and down. Which means that key countries did not allow the United States airspace, France and Spain. And France and Spain are important allies, right, of the United States. But that problem isn't just with the United States, also with Israel. So what's happening with Israel? This is what Israel did with France. Israel halts all defense purchases from anti-Semitic France. They're calling France anti-Semitic. Why is France anti-Semitic? Israel. Let's see why they're anti-Semitic. Israel's Defense Ministry Director General Amir Baram has halted all defense procurement from France, a country whose behavior towards Israel Baram has previously called absolutely bluntly anti-Semitic. Ooh. The Defense Ministry Director General says that France is absolutely and utterly, bluntly anti-Semitic. Therefore, we need to halt all defense purchases from them. Baram ordered the termination of existing French contracts and a shift toward instead purchasing Israeli-made equipment and purchases from more friendly countries. Do they have any left? I mean, Narendra Modi, Donald Trump, anyone else? Anything else? Okay. The decision reported in the Israeli media follows what the country's officials have described as Paris's increasingly hostile stance toward it since the Hamas attacks in October 23. Israel criticized France for blocking off parts of the Israeli pavilion at the Paris Air Show in June 2025 during its 12-day war with Iran. French authorities erected partitions around the Israeli displays of offensive weapon systems despite prior understandings. At the time, Baram described the move as absolutely and bluntly anti-Semitic. and accused Paris of using political pretext for commercial exclusion to protect French industries from Israeli competition. The defense ministry said that this occurred at a time when Israel's fighting a necessary and just war. Of course, aren't all their wars necessary and just, right? To eliminate the nuclear and ballistic threat facing the Middle East, Europe, and the entire world. So it's not threatening them, it's threatening the Middle East, Europe, and the entire world, just not them. France also supported calls for UN arms embargo on Israel and imposed restrictions on Israeli participation in other defense exhibitions. This included earlier attempts to limit displays at events such as Eurosatory, a large international exhibition for the defense security industries, and it was held, of course, every 2 years in Paris. Okay, why are they taking such a dramatic stance here with France? First and foremost, they're trying to pretend like they have the upper hand here. It's France that began the situation. It's not like Israel, by the way. They already halted a lot of the arms exports. They tightened the situation more. It doesn't make Macron good or his government, by the way. But they've had their differences with Israel. But they also had their differences with Israel for another key reason, and that is Lebanon. Because traditionally, after the Sykes-Picot agreement between the British and the French to divide, slice the pie of the Arab lands between them and create nation states, and, all of these countries have people, being proud of their flags and what have you. France had influence over Lebanon and Syria. And Macron, and traditionally France as well, they tried to play a very critical role, important role in France to try and de-escalate. And recently Macron gave Benjamin Netanyahu an offer. He told him, I give you my word, I'll solve the situation in Lebanon. Just leave it to me. And they've been participating in the talks, by the way, that the United States has been in. Netanyahu said no. No de-escalation, no nothing, I'm not listening to you, and we're going for occupation. Then his genocide minister, Israel Katz, said, none of the Lebanese are going to return to the south and unless we have safety. And we might need to have more control zones in the area. Now they bombed multiple bridges of the Litani River to prevent people from going back. In essence, an expansion attempt coming from Israel, assuming they would go in, of course, because the Lebanese resistance is roasting the living daylight out of the child-killing forces' heads in Lebanon. I mean, you need to see what the Lebanese resistance is doing. Of course, we're talking about their operations. So that made Macron angry, and he's had a more hostile approach towards Israel, as in a response, by the way, because Israel humiliated the ambassador. As a matter of fact, they had an assault on him. The French have been criticizing Israel's actions with the Christian communities in Jerusalem as well. They were calling for de-escalation and what have you. And they weren't buying the fact that this war is necessary, this war with Iran. They weren't entertaining that as in whatsoever. So that is what's leading Israel to make this move. And it's not a move out of strength. Israel needs every supplier it can have relations with, because so many countries made it more difficult to deal with Israel, or even had a full throttle arms embargo against them. But it's a move for Israel to show that we are the ones who are actually in charge. It's not you, we are the ones in charge. Okay, Trump is saying that we might end this soon, and he's saying that we don't need the oil. All right. If Trump is saying that we might end this soon, and he's having these statements that relate to the developments on the ground, and that, other allies can go ahead, Gulf states, go get your oil. What is Israel going to do? And what is Israel's position going to be? And how is everything going to be navigated in relation to the fronts that are open? Is Lebanon, for example, going to be tied with Iran? Yemen, is it going to be tied with Iran? Gaza, what's going to happen exactly? Well, Benjamin Netanyahu said, I'm not putting a timeline when the Iran war will end. But over half of our missions were achieved. Okay? Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the war on Iran has achieved more than half of its aims. I mean, no list or anything, and they didn't provide anything to support that. But hey, they don't have to. They're the chosen ones. Without putting a timeline on when it would end. That's the more important part here. No timeline on when it would end. It's definitely beyond the halfway point, according to the war criminal, but I don't want to put a schedule on it, he told Newsmax, a US conservative broadcaster. He adds that he meant the war was more than halfway in terms of missions, but not necessarily in terms of time. So half of what we want has been accomplishment, but the time, don't tell us about time. Netanyahu says the war has achieved goals, including killing thousands of members of Iran's Revolutionary Guards, without, of course, evidence to support that. Israel and the United States are also close to finishing Iran's arms industry. That's a big statement. And just the whole industrial base, wiping out entire plants and the nuclear program itself, he says. Netanyahu also voices confidence that the Islamic Republic would fall. I think this regime will collapse internally. So hold on. So is he not listening to President Trump? President Trump and Pete Hegseth said that there's a new regime, which means in essence that the regime fell. So hold on a second. The two primary allies of Satan, the Epstein cult, conducting this war of aggression against Iran, do not agree on whether the regime has or hasn't fallen. Okay, very interesting. But at the moment, what we're doing is just degrading their military capability. Okay, he's becoming a little bit more accurate here because, you know, it's difficult to say that they don't have anything when Iran is hammering the living daylight out of them. Degrading their missile capacity, degrading their nuclear capacity, and weakening them from the inside. Oh, that weakening them from the inside is very much wishful thinking because Iran, well, we saw the protests in Iran every single day. People are in the streets in their millions, whether they support or they don't support the government. They're in the streets in their millions supporting the actions coming from their country towards this genocide state, Epstein cartel, taking these actions against them and trying to take down the country as a whole. Because they realize it's no longer about an establishment here or government there. We're talking about a very important situation where they're trying to take down the entire country and make it surrender. Now, one of the final things that I wanted to talk to you about, I think, in this live stream is as follows. I began by telling you about Iran's tactics, the intel, the fact that they have information on the whereabouts of US forces, whether they are in hotels, civilian buildings. They're increasingly using camouflage and embedding themselves in civilian infrastructure. Just the same things that they blame the others of doing. There are some countries that are trying to bypass the problems that they have in Hormuz. You know, we've had the Syrian president the other day saying that, oh yeah, we'll have, you can bypass through us, you know, just build the pipes, capitalizing on the war in Iran. Then we had other countries saying, okay, let's move the pipelines down south. One of these locations, by the way, is the pumping station in the Habshan Fujairah oil pipeline. That oil pipeline was supposed to bypass the shutting down of the Hormuz Strait. What happened? Iran targeted it. Iran hit the UAE oil hub, bypassing Hormuz, adding pressure on the oil market. And they spoke about, of course, the Habshan Fujairah oil pipeline and satellite images too. But we actually had videos about this attack. So this was one of the videos that was published following the Iranian attack. And look at the scale of the damage. So Iran, in essence, what they're doing here is understanding any sort of counter move that the United States is trying to do to bypass the Strait of Hormuz, and they're shutting it immediately. So any talk about oil in the Gulf cannot exclude Iran, whether it's going through the Hormuz Strait or not. Why? Because if it's going to go through the Strait of Hormuz, then Iran is in charge. If it wants to go through other countries too, and these other countries are hostile towards Iran, there's no safety. Why? Because Iranian missiles can target them. And that, what Iran did here, is a prime example of how the future is going to look like. With Iran's power, with Iran's influence, with Iran's leverage, and why the United States is having these statements now. You know, we won, we destroyed them, there is a new regime, we're talking to them, they're more rational than the previous ones. Every single thing you hear literally put the opposite. The regime is gone, the regime is stronger. They have new moderate leadership, they have a much harder leadership now. If there's someone to talk to, there's no one to talk to, right? Recently, the Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said that Witkoff is trying to contact him every single day, many times in essence, and he's not responding to him. Why? Because they have the upper hand, and the United States doesn't have the upper hand. That's why they're making all of these statements and posting these blatant lies, lying to the public in broad daylight, and they have corporate media in front of them, not even challenging them about these lies, because Iran not only understands how to deal with them, but Iran understands how to handle all of the secondary plans, all of the plan Bs that they're preparing against it. And these were the main things that I wanted to share with you in this live stream. I hope I kind of wrapped up everything as much as possible. And thank you so much for everyone who participated, all of our viewers, subscribers, everyone who sent supers. Let me go through all of the supers. Thank you very much for that, all of you. And Shad, you said, could the Chechen forces really do as they say? They're saying they're ready to fight on the ground with Iran should the US put troops on ground. Yeah, they can. There's no problem with that. I mean, they went and fought in Ukraine. If Russia has a deal, right, they'll go. But it has to have the approval of Russia, because Chechnya is not like a fully independent country. That needs to be kind of understood. They are under the umbrella of Russia, part of the federation with a semi-autonomy. So if Russia says fine, then they'll go. So there is a possibility, assuming that there would be, by the way, a ground invasion. And everyone else, thank you so much for your supers. In the meantime, guys, I'll, as usual, have more videos for you, another live stream tomorrow in a similar time, of course. So keep an eye on the videos and the live tab. Thank you again. Stay blessed. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, night, morning, depending on where you are. And I will see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone. Salam. Right now, misinformation spreads faster than facts, especially on the most sensitive global stories. NVP uses uncensored AI analysis to verify the most controversial topics and separate signal from propaganda in real time. Instead of guessing who to trust, you can see structured verification and analysis behind every major issue.